this. Schousboe?
Schousboe.
I'm going to guess that's Schousboe.
And he's playing Reanimator.
Right, and we actually, Ely Cassis, I think, kind of made this version of Reanimator, the Jin-Gitaxias-based Reanimator, made it popular. And if you haven't ever played against Jin-Gitaxias on the table on turn 2, oh boy.
There's a reason he costs 10 mana.
10 mana.
So you have Jason on the right-hand side of your screen, Edgar on the left. I believe Jason is on the play. Seems to be tanking on his hand.
For those of you who are looking for a deck for Legacy, if you can just get the cards for it, I do think that if you practice it, Reanimator is a great entry deck into Legacy, because if you just do things like, I will try to put Jin-Gitaxias into play, you can just win off of that. Okay.
But to be fair, there are a lot of subtle things that go into Reanimator.
Oh, it's a very difficult deck to play, but it also is something that you can brute force.
Yep.
We have a sacking of the polluted Delta, and I'm not surprised if he gets either an island or a dual land. He goes for the dual land
play
here.
tap, doesn't want to take damage. This isn't Water Goose, folks. This is Legacy. So
maybe he'll be entombing at the end of the turn.
Casting Entomb, perhaps?
Entomb, one of my favorite cards of all time. There it is, Entomb. Other side of the table is a Tundra.
So there's a lot of subtle things that go on in Legacy. For instance, here, if Jason knew what his opponent was playing, if he knew that Edgar was playing an Esper Blade type deck, he very well may have just cast that Entomb in his main phase for fear of getting it dazed or spell pierced. But in a broader field, not knowing what his opponent's on, he wants to wait until his opponent's turn to use that Entomb to see what sort of creature he wants to pick up.
Absolutely. There's a lot of information you can glean from it. One of the things that I love about Legacy, one of the things that I think makes Legacy perhaps the best format, is that there are so many viable archetypes in Legacy that as long as your deck is rational, if you've practiced it, if you know the field, if you know how matchups work, you have a really great shot of playing well against nearly anything. I mean, I always feel like this is one of the most skill testing formats of all time.
But really, there's so many incremental decisions that you can make in Legacy that can have huge implications. Things like how you play your fetch lands, how you play Brainstorm.
Absolutely.
AJ Soccer wrote a long piece and has written many more things and done countless videos analyzing the card Brainstorm.
Absolutely.
Which is one of the most popular cards in Legacy, and just the minor advantages or sort of leaks that you can have with your Brainstorms can mean the difference between winning and losing.
Absolutely. And now both of these players have 4 Brainstorms in their deck. There has been some call recently to ban Brainstorm. Personally, I think that there's no need.
I think Brainstorm is one of the best cards in the format, but I think it's not the sort of card that you give the axe.
And careful study, we will be seeing the red version of this card very soon.
What is it? Frenzied looting?
Frenzied.
Faithless looting? Faithless looting. Faithless.
Faithless, because it makes you lose faith in wizards after their wonderful Innistrad.
Okay. So,
I did take a quick discussion with Richard Feldman about Faithless Looting, if that's its name. And when he heard about the card, he was like, well, I guess that's going in my dredge deck. So, according to him, he might drop breakthroughs for it.
Sure, I can see that.
Meaning he would actually keep Tireless Tribe and the little imp, Putrid Imp, over it. Second turn, we have a Reanimate.
So Jason could have theoretically gone for that Reanimate last turn, but it looks like he's... Oh, it resolves?
Iona. Now, if we look at Edgar Flores' list, Edgar's list only has 4 counterspells in it total besides the 3 Force of Will. So
he has Spell Pierce as well.
Yeah. So it's 5, 6, 7, 8. Recounting, 8 total counterspells. 2 Pierce, 3 Snare, 3 Force of Will.
Okay, yeah. So, and his deck cannot really effectively remove an Iona set on white from play. He has no copies of Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Yep. What is his...
So Edgar is in rough shape already. He needs a Bitter Blossom to...
Edgar goes land, go.
Yeah, he's already in pretty terrible shape. Though, if you're looking at his sideboard, just about everything can come in.
He's got Extirpate, he's got Surgical Extraction, Thoughtseize. I mean...
Force of Will, Duress, Spell Pierce, Path.
Damnation.
Any number of cards that are excellent at dealing with Reanimator.
In comes Iona. Take some damage.
Well, now that we have Iona, let's see what else we can get.
What else do we need? Exhume? Do you have an Exhume?
I want more toys.
Exhume. What is the other card that he has in the yard there?
I don't know.
Some good card.
I believe there's probably a Jin-Gitaxias, maybe?
Spell Pierce stops the Exhume.
This is one of those matchups where we really wish they could slide their graveyard a little bit over.
Oh, like Caleb Durward's graveyard in the one game.
Yeah.
I would like to actually see that right now.
So Legacy is, while we were saying, is a format that has lots of little decisions that can make a big difference. It's also a format that has just huge haymaker plays. This game is functionally over already, I think. I don't really know how Edgar Flores can win. He can potentially play a Bitter Blossom, assuming that Iona's on white, which I imagine it is.
Yeah.
He can play a Bitter Blossom and spend the entire game chump blocking.
Well, I mean, he can lay a Bitter Blossom, chump block turn after turn.
I guess he could better skull something up.
Put a Jit on it, and then...
It's going to require him to go pretty deep to get past that Iona.
I mean, it's doable. It's just very, very far away.
Right.
And we see a Snapcaster on the table. And here comes Snapcaster for 2, going for the race. Because do remember, the Reanimate did take a huge chunk out of Jason's life. Yep. Jason is now at 7 life.
That's true, yeah. I mean, it is entirely possible that that Iona is going to have to play defense. But Iona does kill in 2 attacks here, so... Boom.
Down he
Edgar
goes.
down to 6.
Vendilion Click, perhaps?
Yeah, if he has a Vendilion Click,
Animate dead.
Animating something, that's going to get spell snared, it looks like.
There's the snare. 1 mana for your 2 mana. And that is a Vendilion Click in his hand, I think. Edgar's probably going to go to 4 here and lay the click.
So he is, if he wants, he could attack Jason down to 2 life, but then he would not be able to defend himself against that Iona attack coming back. He's probably going to click himself. Because I think he needs to find something.
He needs to find something.
What he could really use right here is an Umezawa's Jitte.
Yeah.
If he clicks himself, finds Jitte.
Jitte.
Yep. However you want to pronounce it. Oh, and that's getting Force of Willed. Okay, I definitely think that's correct.
Okay, and now is Edgar dead? Here's his shot right here.
And
I think he's a dead dog.
I don't think he has any way to get that Iona off the board or block it. So there it is.
There
Game 1 goes to Jason Schousboe with Reanimator. So how do you think these players sideboard?
Well, I actually think that it's possible Edgar will put in his Damnation, his Force of Will, his Duress, his Path, his Extirpate, his Extraction, his Thoughtseize. I mean, honestly, all 15 cards are
I could legitimately see every card coming in. What comes out is
that's the question. Yeah. Good God. I mean, once you're at the point where you're like 15 cards, I think you could take out Batterskull. Batterskull's way too slow. I think Sword of Feast and Famine is something worth considering.
Do you just take out the Stoneforge package entirely?
I think you maybe take out the Stoneforge package. I think it's slow, and the only card that I think you really would want might be Jitte.
Yeah, I think my impression is that you want to play this matchup as a draw go deck that can play instant creatures to beat your opponent with Vendilion Click and Snapcaster Mage. If you board in a bunch of discard spells, which go very well with Snapcaster Mage, you can take out a lot of your sorcery speed stuff like Stoneforge Mystic, all the equipment, and you can just be a draw go deck that eventually kills your opponent. It has so many answers.
I mean, I think you can easily take out 6 cards, leaving in perhaps the one Umezawa's Jitte as a Miser's Jitte.
Maybe.
And then after
Bitter Blossom
that,
is worth it?
I don't know. Bitter Blossom can do a lot of work against Reanimator. If he doesn't have Elish Norn, Bitter Blossom on the table actually holds off most of the creatures. Sphinx of the Steel Wind still gets through.
Jason does have Inkwell Leviathan in his side, which I think is likely to come in.
I think you're correct. I think that is absolutely correct.
So he also has Jason's sideboard has Duress, Show and Tell, Thoughtseize, Pithing Needle, Echoing Truth, Misdirection, Dispel, and Inkwell Leviathan. So my inclination is he's going to want Duress, Thoughtseize, and Inkwell. Maybe Dispel as well to protect his reanimation effects. I don't really know what comes out in his part. Probably Sphinx of the Steel Wind.
I actually like the Dispel, even not to necessarily protect the casting, but even later on to stop a Swords from going in and doing
to protect
anything.
his fatties from both getting into play and staying in play.
Okay.
The question again is what comes out.
I think that one of the cards that maybe can come out. Gosh, actually, this is really hard.
What are your thoughts on Daze here?
I don't think that I like Daze against Edgar. His counterspells don't usually tap him out. A lot of his cards are going to cost 1. So Daze is actually probably an easy out.
I think in particular with Jason on the draw, Daze becomes much less powerful. Edgar's a lot of very cheap counters. He has very few expensive plays. I don't know if Jason knows whether Edgar has Jace or not, but Jace is very good if he's trying to protect his guys from Jace. But otherwise isn't particularly good in any sort of long game. And I don't know that he's going to try and play a long game here, but I think he needs to be set up again to play one because he knows his opponent's going to have graveyard hate.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing is, obviously he doesn't want the long game. He is the beatdown deck in this matchup, but Edgar is going to try to force a long game.
Yeah, absolutely. And while Jason, as I said, doesn't want to play that, he needs to have tools that will allow him to win a game that he doesn't manage to reanimate a fatty in the first couple turns.
Shuffling.
Lots of that happens in Legacy with all the fetch lands and search effects. There's certainly no shortage of shuffling, which is one of the reasons Brainstorm's so good.
Absolutely. So for those of you who are just joining us, this is the Star City Games Live Open Series in St. Louis. Star City Games has been bringing this amazing tournament series, and I think might be single-handedly responsible for a huge resurgence in Legacy. 277 players here today.
Yeah, I mean, I had not really played Legacy prior to the Star City Games Open Circuit, and now I don't play the format much now, but I love it. When I do play, I have a lot of fun. I invested in a Legacy deck, picked up cards to let me play when I decided I wanted to. Now I've decided I wanted to play with different cards, so got to do some reorganizing there. But definitely a major player in the sort of resurgence of this awesome format.
Now, if you're going to look at this format as like just for its diversity, there are so many archetypes in this format. If a deck is super popular, it might break the 10% barrier in terms of how much of a population it is in a format, in a tournament.
Yeah, there's so many things you can do in Legacy, and we're seeing some of them start happening right now. So,
Turn 1 Thoughtseize from Edgar Flores off of an Underground Sea.
So this is one of the important sideboard cards that Edgar brought in. Thoughtseize lets him both break up his opponent's combo and give him the information about how he has to play. It's very important in this sort of matchup to have that knowledge of what your opponent can do.
We got Force Will, Brainstorm, Careful Study, Exhume, and is that a pair of Jin Gitaxias?
It does look like it. So what do you take here?
I would now the most powerful card in that hand, I think, is actually the Brainstorm. But there's the question: do you take the Careful Study, which is the enabler, or do you take the Exhume, which is the thing that gets it done? He goes with the Careful Study.
I think I agree with taking Careful Study. There are
turns the two crappy cards in his hand into spells.
Right, and it also digs him to more mana.
Yes.
If Edgar has, for instance, Spell Pierces, which he boards up to 4 of. He's much better able to punish Jason for his land-light draw if he's able to stop him from digging for more land with Careful Study.
And Exhume is actually dead until there is something in the yard. And yes, there's a million ways to get something in the yard, but until that happens, it's dead.
Yeah, it also takes Jason's first turn play, which really forces him to spend his mana awkwardly over the next few turns.
Jason goes and
looks
touches
like Jason's
up.
going to need to use that Brainstorm to try and find land, which is not a position he wanted to be in.
End of the turn Entomb, maybe?
No,
End of the turn Brainstorm.
I think he may have drawn his card. I think he may have drawn his card, then Brainstormed.
Which is just fine. Honestly, one of the things about Legacy, generally speaking, the power levels of the cards are such that there are many cases where a main phase Brainstorm is absolutely correct.
Yeah. In fact, end of turn Brainstorm is often just wrong. Lots of players
wrong.
As you were saying, at one point yesterday, have end of turnitis.
Yes.
They're just like, oh, this is an instant. I should play it during my opponent's end step. It's like, well, if you're going to possibly draw something you could use with your Brainstorm, you should really cast it when you have that opportunity.
Amusingly, I was playing against Craig Wesco for fun, and I cast an end of your turn Brainstorm, and I think it was absolutely correct in that moment. And AJ was sitting nearby and started like, no, no.
Yeah, there's a lot of evaluation that goes on about when it is correct to use your Brainstorm. So Edgar Flores spell pierces that Brainstorm, and we talked a lot yesterday about using counter spells on your opponent's card draw effects or search effects in the control mirror. And here, Edgar, because of his knowledge of Jason's hand with Thoughtseize, knows that Jason is short on land and can punish him for that with his spell pierce.
Now Edgar goes for the main phase Brainstorm. He has the polluted, not polluted, pardon me.
Flooded Strand.
He
also has Polluted Delta.
Yeah, he has the Polluted Delta and the Flooded Strand, which he can use to turn this Brainstorm into almost a quasi-Ancestral Recall.
So Jason is entombing in response to the Brainstorm, hoping to get a fatty in his yard before Edgar has a chance to stop it.
And it works.
So now Edgar knows that Jason has that Exhume in hand.
He puts the Iona to the top as one of the options. I bet you that Jin Gitaxias might be another option.
Well, it's interesting because Iona gives him protection from Source to Plowshares. While Jin Gitaxias is a more powerful effect, it's a less reliable effect.
Absolutely. So he's got to decide what he wants. Which one of the two did he grab?
Can't see,
I cannot
and it's
tell.
now off our camera.
Can we find out from the judge what card is in the yard?
Or even better, if we could slide that graveyard over on camera, that would be great.
Okay. And the Brainstorm now resolves. Edgar continues his turn. He has the Swords to Plowshares in hand. Both players using the popular Star City Games champion sleeves.
Hoping
Edgar-
to superimpose themselves on that by the end of the day.
Edgar has superimposed himself on the trophy
Several
holding
times,
several
several
times.
times.
Yep.
Edgar has had an incredible year, though with Alec Bertoncini's top 8 just yesterday, he may be no longer really in legitimate reach of the Player of the Year title unless he posts a top 8 finish himself in this event.
He might have to win, actually, to be within reach.
Yeah, well, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but it definitely, that finish for Alex definitely pulled him quite a bit ahead.
And Jason takes his turn, has no other plays there. Brainstorm here for Edgar. This is a main phase one, actually. Puts back some cards.
Like a land, and
I believe he's going to lay a 4th land here. Maybe he'll just stay on the 3. He put back the 4th land.
That's kind of weird.
I think he just likes his spells.
I like land.
I'd like land too. Main phase Brainstorm here from Jason.
I would spell pierce that as well, I think. I can't really tell all
Brainstorm,
of what is in Edgar's head.
Force of Will, Swords to Plowshares, Spell Pierce, Red's card? That can't be a red card.
Oh, lets it resolve.
Now the thing is that you might want to stop this card in general, but you do have to ask yourself about the economics of your plays. Mm-hmm. As you get less control cards in your hand, the scarcity increases the value of them.
That's true. Yeah, and as the game progresses and your opponent gets more land in play, a card like Spell Pierce is getting weaker and weaker.
Yes.
So there's a lot of competing tensions with a card like that.
Those tensions are one of the reasons I love Magic so much.
Absolutely.
End of the turn, Edgar cracks his land.
Gets rid of his land, which, I mean, right now what Edgar really wants is a clock. Edgar the card that he really wants to draw is Vendilion Click. Yes. Vendilion Click is an all-star in Legacy, and just about any format it's ever been legal in.
Yeah, actually, I think the worst place for Vendilion Click was Lorwyn Block Constructed.
Yeah, that's probably true. There were Bitter Blossoms everywhere. There were door ends all over the place that made that guy a little embarrassing.
Everywhere but Lorwyn Block Constructed, I think that he has been just great.
Kind of like Stoneforge Mystic. That guy wasn't very good in block either.
And Edgar draws Extirpate, a huge weapon. Extirpate's split second is so powerful that it's just incredible. I'm actually a little surprised that it even runs Surgical Extraction. I understand that Surgical Extraction can be free, but Extirpate just, it does so much.
I think part of the difference between Extirpate and Surgical Extraction is that you don't necessarily want... He does have a split of the two of them. And I think that if you are going to play a graveyard hate card, specifically for graveyard decks, Extirpate is far better. But in a world of Snapcaster Mage, I think Surgical Extraction has a place. Because the ability to sort of blank your opponent's Snapcaster for 0 mana, mana is at an absolute premium in Legacy. So I can certainly see doubling up. And in this matchup, you certainly want both.
Edgar shuffles a little bit. Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Jason draws.
Is that
looks
Ponder?
I can't tell what it was. Might have been a 3-moon
I thought
Ponder.
I saw 3 moons. Pretty sure it's a Ponder.
I did see an altered version of the 3-moon Ponder that had one wolf in front of it, and I thought that was kind of funny.
That is pretty funny.
3-moon Ponder. Not quite a hipster Ponder, I suppose. I just think I see Intuition in his hand. That doesn't actually... it's not on his list, so it can't be an Intuition. Show and Tell, that's what that is. Show and Tell, Daze, and I think that's a reanimation spell still. Can you make out that last card between Show and Tell and Daze?
I think that is Entomb.
Okay. Now these are the cards that he's looking through for his Ponder, and away they go.
So Jason's actually in a little bit of a weird spot right now. He doesn't necessarily know it, but he's going to have to fight a couple fights over reanimation, and Edgar can put him in a particularly odd spot by forcing him to use cards like Force of Will to protect the reanimation effect if he tries to counter back, and then ultimately just extirpating the target if there is a counter war.
Or another thing, Jason has 3 Force of Wills in his hand.
Yeah.
So, like...
But the problem with those Force of Wills is that they cannot win a fight against Extirpate.
That's absolutely
Extirpate
correct.
is split second. It cannot be countered. In fact, can do nothing that is add nothing to the stack except for triggered abilities. Which there are some interesting interactions between split second and triggers. So
we see
Exhume.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Extirpate happen here.
Exhume is interesting because are there multiple creatures in Jason's yard? Because if there are, Extirpate doesn't actually stop it.
This is true.
I can't really tell.
I think we're gonna...
that looks like Surgical 4 mana, paying the mana to Surgical. So here he's putting Jason in a position. He's like, okay, you want a Force of Will? If you Force of Will, you can counter this one.
I think we're gonna see a Force of Will. Force of Will with Show and Tell? Or that Jin Gataxius, maybe? Force of Will. Tossing Force of Will. This is one of those plays that people sometimes overlook. Remember, the actual extra card economy lost is real. Yep. And there was a Spell Pierce on that Force of Will.
So this is a fight that's going to be tough for Jason to win. He can Force of Will back, but yeah, no, he's not gonna continue the fight. Oh, and Edgar Spell Pierced to the Exhume apparently, when he really should have Spell Pierced the Force of Will, because now his Surgical is not going to resolve and he's not going to get it out of the yard. That's a little bit of sloppy play on Edgar's part. Definitely needs to recognize what's important on the stack. So
and there we go.
Resolves.
Wow, that could have been much more powerful for Edgar.
Absolutely. Now the next reanimation effect is still live.
Island, Upkeep, Vendilion Click.
I'm not sure I like Upkeep there.
I don't like it myself.
I think people. This is another instance, I think, of people who see that a time that they can cast a spell and they go for it when they it's that's what you do. And upkeep.
I like
this
waiting.
Here, no, and Force of Will.
Force of Will.
Yeah, I like waiting until end step.
Well, in this situation, I like waiting till end step. There are certainly other situations where
absolutely you want to upkeep it. It depends on the sort of matchup you're talking about. In a matchup against, say, a creature deck that doesn't have counter spells, you want to take their play that turn, and you don't have a counter. You don't have counter magic. You go for it to try and stop them.
But in a matchup where your opponent actually can just destroy you in a moment during the main phase, I would like to wait until the end of the turn so that I have that mana open to fight over anything that might destroy me.
Right.
And it does fail to resolve, and we see a Thoughtseize now from Jason.
And this is something that can clear.
Extirpate is in response.
So I think Edgar's failed Surgical Extraction last turn is maybe sort of coming back to haunt him here.
Oh, he hits Exhume.
Oh, he did extirpate Exhume? No, I think he extirpated that and he's revealing the Exhumes in his hand.
Oh, okay,
so
there we go.
If the Surgical Extraction had resolved,
okay.
If the Surgical Extraction had resolved, he could have extirpated Exhume and gotten both of these Exhumes from Jason's hand. So this is really, really bad on Edgar's part in terms of the impact that little misplay had last turn.
Swords to Plowshares, Brainstorm, and a card that I don't recognize. Do you see what that is?
I believe that's Path to Exile. That's a promo version.
Okay, I do not know many of the promo cards, so goodbye Brainstorm.
Yep, so gives Edgar a pair of white removal spells, so Jason now knows that what he wants is Iona.
I think I just see Bob. Dark Confidant.
It was.
Bob Mahar's invitational card comes down.
So that is going to accelerate the pace at which Jason needs to assemble something.
And Bob reveals. Did he actually reveal that Spell Pierce that he got from the Bob? I hope so.
I'm guessing so.
And
Bob
we see
swings in.
I think it's Swords, Spell Pierce, Path to Exile, and a card that I don't know. Dark Confidant, one of my favorite Magic cards. I like it so much that I put it on a Magic table I made.
What?
I have this magic table that I made, and it's covered in magic cards, and Bob is one of them.
Oh, okay.
And a land for that turn for Edgar. Comes in with Dark Confidant.
Bob swings, dropping Jason to 10 life. Now Edgar has a lot of cards, but not all that many cards that Jason doesn't know about. Not all that many cards.
Force
that
a will, take 5.
Boom, 5 damage.
Power at any cost.
Yeah. Greatness.
Greatness. You're right. Greatness at any cost.
The great one.
Boom.
So the great one comes in, hits for 2. Jason drops to 8 life. Edgar, just with more land in play. Jason with only 4. Checks out his graveyard. Jason's hand is those 2 exhumes that we saw before, and I haven't really gotten a glimpse of what he's drawn since.
Nor have I.
So we definitely saw the impact of Edgar's turn 1 Thoughtseize coming into play here, because Jason has been unable to get another target for reanimation in his graveyard. Taking that careful study has been a big deal this game.
Absolutely. And Jason just packs it up.
Oh, wow.
He says, let's try again.
I don't want to play anymore. I'm done. Done here.
Yeah. I'm going to take my ball and go home.
So, what do you think about Game 3 with Jason in the play?
I think that Edgar really has to have answers right away. The real danger of the reanimation deck is that it can start doing things that are incredibly scary by turn 2.
Right. Well, I mean, I think that's one reason that a card like Surgical Extraction is potentially a powerful card here. Even though Extirpate is going to generally be better, the fact that you can do it in a low to no mana situation is very important.
And it's also worth paying attention to the fact that, as you said before, Snapcaster does mean that you can get 2 mana Surgical Extraction, 2 for the Snapcaster, 0 for the Extraction, and that 2 life is generally speaking not going to matter. Right.
I mean, you can potentially die to a Bob or take some hits from a reanimated creature that you might be able to otherwise survive, but usually if something gets reanimated, it's going to kill you.
Yeah, I mean, like, you might die 1 turn sooner, or most of the time you won't die 1 turn sooner, you'll just be dead at the same turn you would have been.
Right, yeah. The life total is not the most important resource in this matchup. I do like Edgar's setup after sideboarding. He has a lot of powerful cards for the matchup.
Absolutely. I mean, this reminds me of a modern deck I'm working on with Dark Confidant, where after sideboard, you just have, all of this discard, you've got all kinds of hate, and you just keep drawing it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the combination of the low-cost counter magic, 4 Spell Pierces, to go along with his Graveyard Hate, his discard, his Snapcaster Mages, Dark Confidant, Force of Will. He has so many cards that are very difficult for Jason's deck to deal with. Lots of answers to everything that Jason's trying to do.
And shuffle, 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 sideboard, sideboard, sideboard. I feel like I've seen Jason at some other events.
He definitely looks familiar. I don't know from where, but certainly seen his face around before. Doing a quick check on our database here, see where we might have seen him in the past.
That's correct. Okay, so he has gotten in 2 Star City Games events. He played Turboland in Standard. Whether it was either the Conley style version or the Adam Prozac style version.
The Ali Antrazi was one of the.
There's Ali Antrazi. Yep, that should be the other one. I should be saying Ali and Adam Prozac.
Okay.
And then he got top 4 with that at a Standard Open in St. Louis, and then in Minneapolis in Legacy he got 7th place with lands.
Okay, so definitely a player with experience in both formats. Edgar also has had success in both formats, though not much success without blades in his deck.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. And he is a Stoneforge Mystic guy.
Yeah, he had a remarkable run of success with Cawblade during its heyday, and his results have dropped off a little bit since then. But he's still done quite well, and is hoping to improve that today with yet another blade deck. I
think one of the things that Edgar got very good at is the the shifting of the speed of the game that the Caw-Blade deck was very capable of doing, where you would move your role to a more aggressive role or a more controlling role and select the answers that you needed based on what was going on. I think he got very good at that.
I think Edgar was the first person to really pioneer the tons of low-cost cards in, not just in Caw-Blade, but specifically when Caw-Blade was super popular. He was the one who just cut Gideon from his deck.
Yeah.
He's like, everyone has Spell Pierce, I'm just not going to bother with Gideon. I'm going to play 4 into the Royals because I can just afford to exchange card economy because I'm going to have Squadron Hawks, I'm going to have Jaces. My stuff's going to resolve because I'm playing cheap cards.
And one of the things that I definitely think was a way that deck played out is it was a deck that actually cared more about what was on the board when you're talking about the mirrors than it cared about much of anything else.
Right.
Did you have a sword on the board? Did you have a Jace on the board? That was more important than any card advantage you might have up until that point.
I mean, all of the powerful, like the ability to establish and maintain a board position was really what made Caw-Blade a very dominant deck for so long. It was able to make such profitable mana exchanges that it could deploy, what seemed to be a weak army of Hawks and really just dominate anyone with it.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like the strategic archetypes, to me, the Caw-Blade then is best fit under the mid-range control definition because it's not a pure control deck, and it's certainly, even though it can absolutely take moments where it moves into almost an aggro control-like thing, it's still not that hybrid control style thing either. What it's caring about is more about board presence than anything else. Mm-hmm. And that way, it makes itself very similar to decks like the Rock. Though obviously the approach that it takes,
dagger.
No, the approach that it takes is very different.
Sure.
The approach that it takes is very, very different.
All right, so looks like the players are getting ready to start the game. Jason tanking on his opening hand. We talked a bit yesterday about the importance of not revealing information to your opponents, and one thing that I think is very important, particularly in a format like Legacy where the games can be very fast, don't reveal information to your opponent about your opening hand. When you don't go play your land, then think. When you look at your opening hand, think about what you're going to do on your first turn based on what your opponent could possibly do on their first turn, and then make that play immediately when you play your land.
We see Island from Jason Schousboe. Edgar Flores plays Underground Sea.
It looks like Jason has an Exhume, a Jin-Gitaxias, I think that's a Daze, and a Brainstorm.
Right, he lays a Misty Rainforest, passes the turn. Here is a reasonable time to go end of turn Brainstorm when you aren't ready to do anything yet, and you have the fetch lands to be able to immediately make use of card selection.
Yeah. Jason's playing a deck that is, it's a combo deck, and he needs to assemble particularly against Edgar's deck, which has lots and lots of ways that he can deal with Jason's combo. He needs to assemble his combo quickly so Edgar can't find the answers. He does not go for the Brainstorm.
Edgar goes Scrubland Go.
And Jason just playing the control game here.
Jason waiting. There's a Underground Sea Go. If you don't have any cards you particularly want to get rid of, you do not need to Brainstorm.
That's true.
Flooded Strand Go.
Jason, after seeing multiple Spell Pierces in Game 2, certainly doesn't want to put himself in a position where he's throwing his cards into Spell Pierces. He'd much prefer to find a discard that can, at bare minimum, give him information about Edgar's hand so he knows what he has to play around.
And Jason says go. Brainstorm drawn by Edgar Flores. Edgar looks like he might lay a Marsh Flats. Oh, no, never mind. That is a Riptide Laboratory. He can return wizards to his hand by activating the Laboratory.
Riptide Laboratory is a card that was previously okay. It was previously a card that was, okay, sometimes you can get people a Spell Stutter Sprite, maybe. You can recur maybe some niche cards. Ooh, that's a card.
Sensei's Divining Top.
Sensei's Divining card is a card that will make this game go dramatically in Edgar's favor if Jason doesn't manage to put pressure on him right away.
Every turn that passes, the card selection that the Sensei's Divining Top provides him will just slowly become insurmountable.
Yeah. But with respect to Riptide Lab again, the printing of Snapcaster Mage has made that card incredibly powerful. The ability to continually reuse Snapcaster Mage to gain, whether it's casting Brainstorm again, whether it's casting Thoughtseize, Duress, whatever instant or sorcery he may have, it's extremely powerful and can generate an incredible advantage over the course of a game.
He's got 23 lands in his deck, and 2 of them are Riptide Labs. Jason is still responding. He brainstorms and then fetches, getting a second Underground Sea.
So Jason really needs to try and assemble something relatively soon, or Edgar's just going to be able to sculpt the perfect hand. It looks like Jason's hand is another Brainstorm, a Daze, and that Daze also is a card that's going to have increasingly diminishing value as the game progresses. Jin-Gitaxias? I did not see any way to... Ooh, speaking of a way to get something into his yard, there's Entomb.
Jason might just want to go for it main phase here right now without doing end of turn Entomb, just because right now might be his last opportunity to do something. He does have a Brainstorm though, so he can push forward one last turn at the end.
I do think he wants to try and find some sort of disruption, some way to protect what he's doing.
I thought I saw. Didn't we say that he had like?
He has a Daze, but
I thought he had something else.
But Daze isn't going to cut it.
I thought you said Dispel as well. So no Dispel.
It could. I can't really see it. It looks like the blue cards are Daze, Brainstorm, and Jin-Gitaxias, and the black cards are Entomb, Exhume.
Bob.
Edgar loses the Bob. So now Jason is under a serious clock. The combination of Bob and Sensei's Divining Top is going to give Edgar not only card selection, but card quantity. And he's going to be able to find his cards that are going to rip Jason's combos apart. And
we're going to see a Brainstorm here, I believe. There's the Brainstorm.
Jason cannot afford to wait. He needs to go find his combo and something to protect it now.
Brainstorm,
Brainstorm.
Jin-Gitaxias, Reanimate.
None of those are what he's looking for. I would put back the Jin-Gitaxias and something else, crack my fetch land, and maybe cast an Entomb right now.
I would do something
that's
similar.
That's an Ink Leviathan, not a Jin-Gitaxias.
Okay. I would put back the Reanimation target and something. Then I would probably cast Entomb now.
Right,
and then cast Brainstorm after that, and then fetch with the fetch land.
That's definitely the best call. You get an extra peek at what you're looking for. So Jason should, I think, Entomb right now.
There it is.
Probably to get that Inkfell Leviathan, he just put second card down.
Inkwell Leviathan Shroud is just such an important ability.
Yeah. Oh, he's looking at Elishnorn?
Elishnorn to try to kill the Bob? I don't like that.
No. I think you just get Inkwell Leviathan and kill Edgar. Maybe you get Iona, but Iona I think is just worse than Inky. Yeah, he puts the Inkwell Leviathan on top, clearly thinking that's what he wants.
Inkwell Leviathan is a 7/11 for blue 7.
Oh, he goes for Elishnorn.
Wow.
I'm a little perplexed by that.
I don't like it. No, sir, I don't like it. I mean, it could be this, right? He could be putting down a card that he expects to be surgical extractioned or extirpated. Yeah. And then if it doesn't...
He wants the real thing.
If it doesn't get removed, then it still has some valuable effect.
I buy it. I'm not sure I agree with it, but I buy it.
And he brainstorms. This one resolving, showing him a land, a duress, and a land. 2 of those land are probably going to go away, and he'll shuffle them with the polluted.
That duress is what he was looking for.
Yeah, exactly.
He was looking for some way to force his combo through.
And there goes the Delta. Oh, maybe not. Maybe he wants to draw that fetch land.
I think he may want the land because he wants the ability to cast multiple reanimation spells this turn.
Fair enough.
So he goes for
Leads
duress.
with duress. What you got?
And Edgar has top here. So yeah, he can
brainstorm and top.
He can brainstorm in response, which lets him hide something on top of his deck, which he can then top into. So Edgar, I think wants to hide brains, or it looks like he has multiple blue cards. So I think my inclination is to hide the Force of Will on top of my deck. So if Jason does go for it, you can flip the top, get the Force of Will, cast the Force of Will.
I think that's absolutely good. Now, one of the things that I think is so awesome about Brainstorm...
It does everything.
Well, besides it does everything, it also does so much to allow you to mess up. And it really does help make Legacy matches often about who is better at this matchup.
Yeah. I definitely think that's
Are
true.
you better at this matchup, Edgar, or are you better at this matchup, Jason?
As we were saying before, there are so many intricate decisions, there's so many little things that can make such a big difference. And it's interesting, we were talking about, not that long ago, I was talking to someone about, what are the best blue cards? It's like, well, it's clearly, Ancestral Recall, and then Brainstorm's like, well, someone's saying Ancestral Recall is just strictly better than Brainstorm. It's like, no, it's not. Because in this situation, Ancestral Recall is not clearly better than Brainstorm. And he keeps, okay, so his Surgical Snapcaster, oh, this is pretty
Holy
gross.
hand.
He has quite the hand here. We hadn't really gotten a glimpse of it before, but Surgical with double Snapcaster means that even if Jason takes a Surgical Extraction, that Edgar can snap it right back. He takes the Force of Will, which I think is the clear pick.
Is it?
And I still think if I were Edgar, I probably would have hidden that in top.
I think I might have taken the Surgical, just because if the Force of Will gets cast, you can get 2 cards from Edgar.
Maybe.
But I mean, it's perhaps with Bob still chugging away. Here comes the first try, Exhume.
Oh, and there is the Daze in Jason's hand, which makes that Surgical Extraction not necessarily something that he can double up on. Has Jason gotten 2 guys in his yard or just 1? Because Surgical Extraction is not the answer he wants to Exhume if there are 2 creatures.
I'm not sure. I can't see his yard enough.
So there was definitely the Elish Norn.
And we see Surgical Extraction.
And I think it was just the one Elish Norn.
Is that a scoop? Oh, no, that's Surgical Extraction resolving.
Surgical resolving.
Yeah, Surgical resolving.
So it looks like there's... Oh, is that... Oh, that's Entomb in his hand, so he can still cast Entomb in response. And because the Daze in his hand is going to allow this to resolve. So he's entombing. Yeah, I think that Jason has definitely sculpted this very well, and I think Edgar's going to get punished for not hiding his Force of Will, because Jason's going to be able to entomb for Jin-Gitaxias, it looks like, and Daze the Snapcaster, which is going to prevent the Surgical Extraction from resolving, and Edgar has nothing to stop it.
I actually think that you would let the Snapcaster resolve, and then Daze the Surgical Extraction.
Either, yeah.
Oh, what does Edgar have on there?
Does he have something hidden?
Maybe he has another Force.
Maybe he had another one. And
crack it.
Oh, maybe it's a Spell Pierce. Maybe he was hiding a Spell Pierce. Oh, an extra page. All right. Okay.
Oh.
He hit a good one then. All right. Yeah, I had not seen the extra page in his hand, so I was thinking that Edgar needed that Force of Will, but he had it all.
And Jason's like, okay.
All right. You have every last bit of ammo you possibly need.
And after the shuffle away,
just redraws the top. Jeez.
Oh, boy.
All right, well.
Careful study.
As we were saying, Edgar's deck has a lot of tools to fight Reanimator.
And just think about how intricate that last 2 turns was.
Absolutely. There were so many things, like what you lead. Do you hide the card you need? How do you protect things with Brainstorm? Like Jason sculpting things so he was able to fight against a graveyard hate spell with his Reanimate, his Exhume rather.
And I also think the putting the Elish Norn in the yard actually makes a lot more sense now that we know he had the other Entomb, because then his plan was, well, Elish Norn is not what I want, but if you don't stop it, it's going to suck for you.
Yeah. I think that's definitely a good call.
And we have a discard here of 2 cards that I can't tell.
And is this a show and tell now?
I think we're seeing another Careful Study actually. And he says go. Oh, Doctor. Here comes Vendilion Click.
No, it's Snappy.
Oh, Snappy. Snappy getting a
Brainstorm, I think?
extra. Oh, Brainstorm, you're right. It's land, Swords to Plowshares land.
Just digging. So
tosses back the 2 lands. Untap draws a land or shows a land with the, I don't like that.
No,
take the pain.
You have a
just take the pain.
Yeah, you have
get a shot at a card.
You have a fetch land. You want some real cards.
I think that
Careful Study again
works. Land, Force of Will. There's a blue card in his hand.
It's Jin-Gitaxias and Force of Will, I think. So Jason is the window is closing on Jason having any chance in this game. and it may have already closed. There's Snapcaster Mage in play, along with Riptide Lab, which is giving Edgar access to Extirpate and Surgical Extraction in his yard.
He's got Spell Snare on top, or on the top area of his deck. I'm not sure where exactly. There's Spell Pierce as well. And then Vendilion Click again. Yeah. Wow. Bye-bye, Jason. There's a Spell Snare on top of his deck right now.
There's a Show and Tell.
Cast the Show and Tell.
But we know that Edgar has, at bare minimum, Edgar can Vendilion Click in response.
Jason cracks the fetch land to pay for the Spell Pierce.
I think you Vendilion Click him in response and maybe just let it resolve. And there it is.
That's enough.
So Jason extends the hand. Edgar Flores wins 2-1 on the back of a whole bunch of disruption and a whole bunch of hate.
Dark Confidant fueling that hate.
Absolutely.
Having hate is just fine, but if you don't actually have the ability to cast it, I mean, let me restate that. If you